Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. I am starting this one just a little bit early because there's going to be an awful lot to talk about. There really is going to be an awful lot to talk about tonight. I have just finished watching a rant from Bruce. And of course, he's wrong. He's always wrong. And actually, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. The first one of 2019. I hope it's hale and hearty for everyone. And I think before we start, I think it's just important. Let's just blame Bruce. And as soon as we blame Bruce, then everything's fine. So it was Bruce's fault. So there we are. That's that out of the way. Where should we start? Should we start with
the New Year, you mean?
The New Year, yes, every year. And you see, old Father Time there is responsible for the clock ticking on. Well, he is there first, isn't he? He's there ahead of us. Hello, Zoltan, and hello, 507RC. Well, I suppose let's be topical. Let's start with Gatwick. Not Gatwick, that's not topical anymore. Let's start with Heathrow. I just happen to be sat online, as I do, because I don't go out. I'm very dull, and I thought, well, I'll look at the ADSB, and I might as well live stream that as I did it. And I thought it was very interesting that they allowed arrivals. If there's this drone threat, they allowed arrivals to keep happening and stop the departures at the western end. Anyone got any thoughts as to why they might have done that, or why that's a safe thing to do? No answers at all. No one's going to. So we now all run an airfield, and we're all completely happy to let landings happen, but not departures, whilst we perceive there's a drone threat in the area.
No, it was very easy. The wind was blowing on that direction, so the plastic bag was being drifted for that direction. Quite easy.
Well, the thing is, as far as I know, that landings are not as critical as takeoffs because the plane already has speed. It's on a descent trajectory anyway. So with or without an engine or two, it will still probably get down okay. While if something happens on takeoff, which is still, chances are pretty slim. I mean, they hit more birds than drones anyway, and, not that big of a deal. But yeah, sure, why not? You can't really keep all those planes indefinitely in the air. Might as well bring them down. Like, not in the death kind of way, bring them down.
Well, all right then, fair enough. I just wondered why they didn't put a knock on it and start diverting stuff straight away.
That's gonna be a logistics nightmare.
Well, that's
right there.
That's what happened at Gatwick, wasn't it? I suppose you're right. You are halving the risk by not having them all in the air. Rob Thompson, you're from the CUAS, Counter US Coalition. You're a man that should be. So how are you telling airfields now? You must be getting your telephone must be ringing red hot now.
That's right. And the gentleman that spoke about the planes coming down, not in a nefarious way, is completely correct. So the whole threat thing is kind of overblown with hitting these drones. They hit birds all the time and still come down. You're just in a controlled fall, and these things are gliders. They can glide for quite a bit of ways. So you keep your altitude up, you dive them down at the field, and you get on the ground. And the logistics and costs, it all comes down to dollars and risks. The risks of flying elsewhere costs a lot of dollars, and the risk of hitting these drones and actually coming out of the sky or a problem are pretty low. So.
Hang on a minute, you're from the Counter US Coalition. You're supposed to be selling us gear left, right, and centre now, and upselling the risk. We're not supposed to be able to leave our homes.
For aircraft, I don't think it's that big a risk. Now, for surveillance, intelligence, and psychops, yeah, I would push some equipment towards those areas. But for aircraft coming in, probably not. One of the first comments I ever made in drones publicly was 2013, an argument on DIY drones about what helicopters would do to a drone. And when I proposed that, people were like, "You're nuts." And my grandfather developed the Army helicopter program here in the U.S. And in Vietnam, there's a guy, Hans Weichel, one of my granddad's good friends. He's the father of the Huey. They have a maneuver for going down a river and then taking on flak or gunfire to drift into trees and chop down jungle trees. Okay, so I think jungle trees of 12 and 15 inches wide are going to be a lot more critical than a freaking drone. And so all these wimps that are talking about, you know, oh my God, the tail rotor, I just don't believe them. So, so some of that knowledge has been lost, but there are still some people alive that practice those maneuvers to stay alive.
So, okay, so I wonder who does anyone know? Has anyone caught any more news than I have? What the trigger event for tonight was?
The phone
Somebody
call.
saw a drone.
Sorry, James. Did you see any more than I might have done?
Well, there seems to be a lot of palaver that's coming out of phone calls, and so like I think the biggest threat to aircraft at the moment seems to be phone calls. I've not actually seen any drones yet, not from Gatwick, not from Heathrow. Not saying that there weren't any there. There could well have been, but with all the reporters that have been around, I've just have expected to have seen at least one photo of them. Or some kind of evidence, some actual physical evidence that something was there. So, but really, it does bring up the thought of what do we do if we get a phone call saying there's a drone? Well, what's the procedure on what we do? And the sky's pretty big. I think it's been known for quite a long while that the planes generally don't crash into each other because the sky is big. And pilots are actually really bad at avoiding each other. But to hit a small drone, like, as Rob said, like the chance of it is minute. Which is when I saw like these reports coming out showing the damage that a drone would do to the front leading edge of a wing. If it hits it bang on the leading edge at the highest possible closing speed that they could have, like, pretty destructive. And it wouldn't be too good, but it's all about probabilities. What's the probabilities of these kinds of things happening? And in my opinion, I think it's small. We do need a solution, but I think we also need a solution to the phone call problem.
I'd just like to make a comment on that about technical stuff. All those counter drone companies out there and all those people listening that needs this equipment, using video cameras to spot drones, terrible idea. So your thought about getting a picture of one of these things, not ever going to happen. This is a very developed group that were using drones. They're not going to have any lights visible for starters. And then I dare any of you to take a picture of a drone at 400 feet, unless it's sitting in a hover. And even then you're going to get a real crappy spec. So you're not going to get any pictures of this stuff. A lot of people aren't going to even know they're around. You can't hear a drone over 400 feet. You can't hear it. So if you've obviously gotten all the geofencing off and you're flying over 400 feet, your chances are zip. You're not going to see pictures. You're not going to see the drones.
Hang on a minute. Airline pilots can see these things from half a mile away at whatever feet with ground clutter behind them. So why can't people see them from the ground?
And
I personally know 3 people, and I'll tell you, I know 3 people that have come in close contact with hitting a drone that are not liars, and they don't care one way or the other about drones. And you can see them because you're, less than 100 feet from them. So,
well, yeah, I think it's all very contentious, isn't it? Especially the Gatwick one, because that was rolled out as being, if we want to rewind the clock a bit back to before Christmas and happier times, there was multiple alleged flights, and there were, after the first one shut it down, the world's press were there with big long lenses and all that sort of a thing, searching the skies. Perhaps what was needed is some of the wardens from the Second World War. I can't remember what they were called. That were in posts all over the place, spotting the Germans coming. But they all failed to see it. It doesn't sit right. The Gatwick.
Driving with an electric engine is not a Rolls-Royce engine or those German BMW engines. Okay, you can hear an aircraft way away, for starters. Second is to spot them with these long lenses. The governments, your government, my government, all the governments have high-powered cameras, way better than the press, and they still can't see the drones. So
I suppose I do have a hit standby show-off moment coming here. Fleur at the 2010 Farnborough Air Show when I flew a flying wing, and it was supposed to track me flying the flying wing with the big FLIR camera, and they couldn't. They couldn't track me. So because I was supposed to go on the big screen. So yeah, I suppose I do have a
all those companies selling visual solutions are just wasting your money. Don't buy cameras, people. Get the option with no cameras, because the visual stuff's crap. So is the acoustic. Don't buy it. Trash.
So
as someone who does a lot of filming of drones from the ground, drones in the air, I've got footage taken with action cameras of drones at 200 feet, filmed with a wide-angle lens on an action camera, and you can still see the drone. In fact, people thought it was a UFO. And you can film drones from the ground. And movement is easy to detect. The human eye is very attuned to movement. And I've got a camera with 17 times zoom, and I can easily go quite large in the frame at 200 feet with a drone. And then we're talking about little drones, mini quads, racing drones. So I still believe that in an area where you've got so many people, so many broadcast quality cameras with long lenses and so many people with smartphones, somebody should be able to get a picture. And if you can see it enough to report it, you guys aren't thinking about it.
You guys aren't thinking about a psych op, okay? These guys aren't flying at 400 feet. The only thing they need to do is keep the airport closed down and the airplanes away. Why would I fly anything less than 1,000 feet? Why would I fly that low?
Again,
because no one could see you at 1,000 feet.
Because even the sighting said the drone was down by the fence. So 300 meters away, first sighting at the fence. So we're not talking huge difference. That's bloody damn easy to get on a camera 300 meters away, just at the fence. So it actually wasn't tricky. If you look at the sightings that people are describing, one of them was directly over one of the hangars. Again, photographer there got a photo of it. Turns out it was a police drone. So yes, you can get drones by cameras. I've spoken to one of the photographers there. 500mm zoom lens, perfectly capable. They're all skilled. They're used to filming sports. They're used to filming birds that are small and zip about. They can absolutely film a drone. And this idea that you can have an event going on and no one capturing video of it's absolute nonsense. In fact, it's one of the things I'm going to blog about this week. Because I've been speaking to one of the press photographer that was there throughout the entire events, and I can only mention parts of what he had to say. But I will be doing a blog about it. But yeah, he went through his experience, and he's actually got photographs where he thought, wow, this is a drone in the sky, and he's there, and he's one of the press photographers, and they're chasing it in a car. So they're chasing it in a car, they're getting photographs, they've got photos, they're seeing it on the camera. There's already a story sent off to the media saying, we've got it, just hold the press, we've got it. And then it seemed to disappear, and then they picked it up again. And then just before they went live with the story, they put the images onto the MacBook, and boom, zoomed in, and it was a plane. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do a quick blog on it, was you have here photographers. In fact, this particular photographer actually is a professional drone pilot as well. So he knows drones, he knows what they look like, and he was able to make a mistaken sighting with his eyes. But even then, with the camera, using the quality of standard camera EVF, that wasn't able to, distinct, even with a 500mm zoom, it wasn't able to say with certainty then it got a drone, only that it got lights in the sky. It was only then when he took it to his computer and looked at it at full resolution that he could actually say, oh, I've made a false positive. So then that had to be withdrawn, because it had even been called into the police as a 999 by then. And then it was like, oh, sorry, I've got it wrong. And that just shows, A, how easy it is to make a sight when you're in an airport, that you can actually mistake an aircraft for a drone. And that, B, you can actually capture stuff in the sky with your camera. It's perfectly possible. So
I think
I'll film myself. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, just to add a couple of points to that, there was 60 odd sightings, or I can't remember the exact number, but yeah, so it can't have been that difficult to have seen it if there was that many sightings. But what I would be very interested to see is the timeline of the sightings, and sort of like a kind of breakdown of who those people were. Now, are these just random members of the public, or was it, was there a sort of chain reaction of people, after that first sighting, then suddenly there was all these other people seeing a police drone, for example, going up, and then seeing the police drone, and then the sightings come after that. So it'd be interesting to see actually when these sightings were, who they were made by, and then the positioning of when the police actually took off their drone to go and look for whatever it was they were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth clarifying with that. These aren't 67 people seeing a single sighting. These are over time. So that was over a 3-day period. They then actually moved it up to over 100 sightings. Again, they're going over a 3-day period. But even this was contradictions by the police, because the police originally said, we don't have any valid sightings after the 19th. And then, which seemed fair enough at that point, because on the 20th, the counter UAS went in. So once your counter UAS is active, you can't say, well, that's accurate and the sightings are accurate, because obviously they contradict then, given we're told there were no contacts on the counter UAS. But then the police then changed their story and then said, oh no, we've got sightings up to the 23rd, without explaining the contradiction, that they're effectively saying that the statements over the counter US and over the sightings can't both be true at the same time. So we're in a situation at the moment where they're saying there are 100 sightings. They've said amongst those, to try and validate it, and this is obviously only after ministers have got involved and said to the police, no, you have got a drone incident, when even they've said we might not have. But once ministers have said you have got one, you've got to find a drone under any circumstances. They then said, oh, well, we're making these 100 sightings. I think 90 of them has been credible because they're by airport staff or by members of the police. Well, I'm sorry, members of the police don't, by the fact the police officers have any credibility in sighting drones and being able to say that's a drone rather than an aircraft. It's not a skill you're trained with, and go for an exam and pass and say, yeah, I can do it. As that story I've gone through shown you, even a drone owner can make a mistaken sighting. So we've got those and airport staff, and with airport staff, I don't think if you don't know what a drone looks like, you don't fly them yourself, you don't know what they sound like. I mean, that in itself, to me, with the police sightings as well, is no one's ever talked about the sound. Well, I'm sorry, if you've seen something close enough where you're saying I'm absolutely convinced that's a drone, you should be hearing it, and you should be able to say that that's a valid sighting by the sound. And given that no one said that, it makes me think that it's a sighting at a considerable distance, most likely a false positive. So yeah, I'm the more this has gone on, the less convinced I am, as you've all noticed.
Well,
I'm not going to comment on the drone sightings, but I will comment on this. I'll say there was a study done by the airlines in the 70s that said, let's see, I believe it was 80% of commercial pilots could identify red and green lights at nighttime, and that 20% of pilots couldn't. I'm also going to say the hand is quicker than the eye. And then I'm also going to say that I sat in a psychology class, and there was 30 students in the class, and one person jumped up and ran out of the room, and then we were all asked to identify that person, and no one could identify the person, and they were sitting there for 10 minutes.
If I could just ask a quick question from the group.
Go on, Adam.
What CUAS was present on the location?
Ooh,
I've heard conflicting reports that there being any at all.
Oh no, I think there was definitely Aeroscope. There was, I've forgotten the names, Ian. You're going to have to help me out.
Skyperion, which tracks both drone and the controller by using the radio frequencies.
And Ords was there as well. Another one, Ords, the UK one. The one that got the most press out of it wasn't there. The one that every single report says save the day was not there, and that's for sure. And I believe there was another system as well.
Yeah, that was the one, Leonardo. I don't know too much about that one. I don't know if that's the one that uses visual.
Yeah, there was Ords uses visual. There was a Leonardo one, and there was another system.
Yeah, that's Skyperion from Metis England.
No, there was another system.
Oh, another follows that, right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I dare not say. So they were there, but they arrived after the fact, and I believe I'm right in saying, and Ian will confirm it, that they saw nout. All of them saw nothing.
That's what everyone said. I mean, they've directly told the media that when they questioned that. So. We have to take that as a given if that's what they've said.
Listen to me. These things are only identifying on like 2 and 3 bands. These people were highly organized. Like, you can switch the crystals out. You can buy stuff that can't be detected. You can use shielding. There's all kinds of methods so they can't see them on these things.
Yeah, you could, but you're. I think Rob, you jump into the. Well, I am the conspiracy king. based on some things I've heard, that it was actually a cover-up operation for something else that was going on.
Yeah, I'm going to say all this idea of they've gone through this or that not to be detected. It's actually far more credible the way things have panned out, that actually there was never a drone there in the first place. I mean, no matter what you do to, that entire thing of, I'm going to go to trouble of using radio crystals or whatever else, and then I'm going to stick lights on it and blink the light at police.
Yes, that's on one of the reports, isn't it?
Actually makes sense. You don't go to being covert and then be overt. You'd be one or the other.
But surely, Rob, if you were, I'm ranting at you now, Rob, sorry. But if you were serious and you were going to get a job done, you would have done it. We wouldn't be having this conversation. That's a horrible thing to say and a horrible thought. But anyone serious.
What's the, for two comments? What's the end goal? And then two is, wonder if there was a lot of misdirection going, because that's how psyops work. Like, what's the end goal?
Yeah. Well, if the end goal is to cause disruption, then 1 million points it worked. If there was anything in there at all, and I think Bruce said, somebody said, like with last time, and I think it was Bruce. You don't even need to have, and this speaks very much to James's comment. You just have a telephone and call it in. You never need to have anything there at all.
Yeah, I think the telephone is the greatest threat to aircraft at the moment. I think there needs to be, like, don't get me wrong, I truly believe there needs to be a solution, because even if someone does call up, an airport needs to be able to verify that claim. How does an airport know if there is or isn't a drone in the area? Now, I believe there needs to be detection technology in every airport. Every airport has got radar for larger aircraft. So, we need an upgrade so that we can spot drones. The problem we have, though, is then you're also looking at birds at that point. If a bird is spotted on the, flying around the runway, what would an airport do? Would it close down for 2 days if a few birds were spotted? Because they're also, a similar kind of threat, probably a greater threat in some respects, because you could have a huge flock of birds over a runway, but versus a single drone, which is the greater threat. I think a drone in the wrong hands is, it can be dangerous. So I think that it's important that we can detect these things. But I think it's also important that airports respond appropriately to these kind of events, and not in a sort of panic mode as soon as someone says there's a drone there. It needs to be verified. People have eyes; they can go down and have a look. If they can't see a drone there, then I would probably be inclined to continue operations until it's spotted actually from the tower.
In counterterrorism, they got an effect called the copycat effect. So you think your government's going to come out and tell them that their ass was hanging in the wind and they got nothing for these things? I don't think so. Because what will happen then?
The problem we've got,
you'll never get a confirmation.
Yeah, if you've got people just ringing up, it's like, ringing up and saying, there's the bomb scares. As long as the reaction is the hysterical one we've been getting, people will continue to do it, because even pimply-faced little school kids will go, let's shut down an airport, let's ring them up and say we saw a drone. But if there's no hysterical reaction, if the reaction is more measured and there are proper procedures in place, and you don't get a shutdown just from a phone call, then people will be less inclined to do that. And in that instance, so you've got I don't think there is a policy in place. There doesn't seem to be any kind of management. It's like, oh my God, a drone! I read in the Daily Mail it's going to kill people. Quick, shut down the airport. Everyone is surprised, caught out. They don't know what to do. Why is there no policy? Why is there no procedures in place to actually deal with this in a measured and metered fashion?
I think that is going to be greeted with silence, and that'll lead us nicely into the proposed, the new regulations that are coming in the UK that were announced today. quite by chance, just when it was all awful it's all been all over the news today. There was a drone spotted at Heathrow, tonight. I wonder if there's a connection with that. Part of that is but they're not going to enable it, is it? Well, let's see some of the things, because I was actually reading. That's why I was sat at the computer when I was reading the things earlier. Was they seem to have nicely sorted out I was very worried about the age restrictions, knocking out youngsters from the game. They've made that pilot and operator, one having more responsibility than the other. And they also seem to put aside the fins system. Now, unfortunately, Richard Parker from Altitude Angel was going to be here with us, but he suddenly got quite busy because of tonight. So, so he's not with us tonight. The fins thing, am I right, Ian? Have they dropped that idea of notifying every single flight?
I don't think it's dropped. I think probably what's most likely with that is it's just on hold until they can work out the technology, because you would have to cost that up and decide what you can and can't do. And it could well be the timing of this. It might be that it's been brought forward, because the one thing that's annoyed people with this consultation, even people that are quite happy with what's being said in it, is the fact that it's been totally politicised. You just have to read the start of it. It's going on about Gatwick. Basically, what's happened is BALPA, because they're a union, have gone to the Labour Party, as they do every time, which is the union supporting party in the UK. And so you've got the Labour Party, who then trying to embarrass the government, which is the Conservative Party, saying, well, you're making our airports unsafe because you haven't listened to the airlines union. And so it's become a political football. So that's why Conservatives have grabbed hold of this now, and they're doing that. And they're going, look, we're reacting, we're doing something about it, which is like, well, this is nothing to do with Gatwick. This was always planned to come out. But it could well be the fact that it's come out maybe faster than it was planned to, and maybe they've just sidelined that because they need time to think about it. Or it might just be that it needs to go through more conversations on working out the practicalities of it.
And it's good news that Bruce is going to have to register now if he comes to fly in England. And I understand he's absolutely pro that, and it's his very thing that he wants to do.
I'm going to register. I'm going to start a registry, which I'll register myself with, because no one else wants to register me. But speaking of that that document, I'm going to change screens here, so I hope you can still see me. One thing that there's an exemption for certain organisations, and one of the exemptions surprises me. It says members of the above list of associations are exempt from the requirement to ensure that direct, unaided visual contact is maintained with the aircraft, provided the craft doesn't exceed 3.5 kilograms and at heights lower than 1,000 feet. I'm thinking, so they're authorising BV loss.
James, is there a better term? Is that EV loss? But that's Simon Dale's exemption, isn't it? That's the FPV.
Yeah, that's FPV UK. Yeah, but it sounds to me like you. I think what they meant to say was you won't need an observer, but what they're saying is that you don't have to have direct visual contact with the craft, so you can fly beyond visual line of sight.
But the thing I didn't understand is it says something about you must maintain first-person view, which I didn't quite understand that.
Your video system has to keep working. So you could be flying 10K away with FPV, and
yes, yes, exactly. Well, what does that mean? Because it means you're not seeing anything back here, does it?
I mean, that's the whole thing. Everyone, all the other regulators are telling us it's far too dangerous to fly beyond visual line of sight. You must always fly within visual line of sight. In the UK, saying, yeah, you can do that. But I've been surprised because for a start they brought out that 1K exclusion zone around airports, and I thought, what, 1K from an international airport? Are you joking? I don't think the regulators, like as in most countries, they don't just understand the problem very well.
Oh, I don't know. Osmo Drone saying our loss. I don't think it's our loss, because our loss could be a lot further than that. I think it's EV loss. James, do you would know that sort of thing?
So I believe the rules are that you have to have a spotter next to you. If you're flying FPV, you can fly FPV, but you have to have someone stood next to you who's got sight of the aircraft. That's always been my opinion on that. I know a lot of these places, they fly in they put up NOTAMs and the like for a lot of the big events, and quite a few of them have sort of non-standard flight zones sort of set up. So I know BMFA clubs. I know the BMFA club nearest me, they've got a direct permission from NATS to fly up to 1,000 feet for anything up to 20 kilos. So a lot of these clubs, I've seen, especially in the consultation sort of outcome document, they've shown that really it's going to, all of this kind of stuff is going to be handled on an exemption type basis. what they can't do is make one rule for drones and one rule for model aircraft, because actually defining what a model aircraft is, as we've had these conversations many a time before, is actually quite difficult. So what they need to do is they seem to they seem to be applying the same rule to everything, and then saying, okay, well, if you're a model aircraft club, then come to us. We'll give you some exemptions to allow you to do what you want, basically. So it seems like the most sensible approach that I can take. You know, there needs to be. There's a big push to change the regulations. Without changes in regulations, the drone industry is not going to move forward. So, you know, I feel like it's the only real compromise that can be taken. So I kind of think they've done an all right job with it. They seem to have ticked a lot of the boxes. And one of the interesting ones actually for me was the penalty charge notices. I did a quick edit of a drawing of a Phantom with a penalty charge notice stuck to the top of it, because I thought it'd be quite funny. But you've got a situation where they've actually been quite clever with what they've stopped police officers prosecuting you for. One of which is harassment, alarm and distress. They're not allowed to claim that you're causing a nuisance or you're causing harassment, alarm and distress to people, because I think that those kind of areas have always been shown in the past to be easily abused. So I think by stopping those kinds of things from being these sort of fines from being used in that way is a good thing. And also any kind of serious incident where someone's been hurt or property's been damaged, you're not allowed to use a fine for them. All of these would have to go through a normal court procedure. So I think that they've you know, I think in most cases, I was looking through it all last night actually, and I think in a lot of cases they've got majority of it right. What will be very interesting is this age restriction, because the DFT's sort of view is that it will only affect commercial operators, not not hobbyists. However, the EU in their draft publication went and brought out rules which basically state that it's going to be for all remote pilots. And the DFT is waiting for them to basically clear up on how they're going to go ahead. So once again, this is probably going to end up being affected by Brexit. So we couldn't go for a hangout with you, Gary, without talking about Brexit at some point. But it's probably going to have some kind of effect on the future rules of age restrictions. And it'll be interesting to see if the EU do stick to their guns and say all remote pilots. What course the UK will take, whether they'll divert from that or align themselves.
Yes, well, go on,
in the US, I secured the 9th beyond visual line of sight exemption in December 2017, and then the 11th on February 2018. And I believe there's only less than 20 now. The FAA and I went back and forth. They wanted me to have redundant, repeating antenna systems at the site. And, I maneuvered through that to allow the client to actually remotely control a drone from a Boston office that would be flying in Arizona, which they had never quite thought of. And I said, well, that's a unique form of beyond visual line of sight. And they said, well, we want at least a groundkeeper down there riding around to see that, the thing's in the air and it's okay. And I said, well, is this guy actually going to be able to see the drone? What's he going to do? Follow it around and then get on the cell phone and say, well, the drone went down. They didn't even say have a secondary radio to control the thing. They just wanted another antenna system on the ground to be able to repeat the signal. And so, it just goes to show that the regulators don't understand the technology or the risks. And a lot of times they have zero passion for this stuff either. So, we're at a loss when we ever have to deal with regulators.
So, Rob, speaking of the FAA, with our lovely government shutdown, what is going on the FSDO level here? Because I can't get through to anyone.
So it's non-essential personnel are not working. So any guys that are left in those offices are either working telecommuting from home, answering emails, or the guys are manning the screens and the comm systems. So, you probably won't get a hold of anybody. As far as like exemptions being passed, forget it. Those things are going to back up for months, and I'm glad I don't do that stuff anymore because it's really stupid. But if I did have a client, it's just a couple of telephone calls and I could get it done, but not right now.
And
so a government that can't even run itself, a government that can't even run itself is telling us how to fly drones. That sounds good, doesn't it?
Wow. Yeah, that's what Osmo Jones saying all of the FAA are non-essential personnel. Well, okay. But people with 107s that have got to renew their 107s, I can't remember the exact term. Is that happening now, or will people be having to stand by until it's all back on again?
If you guys didn't know, the drone industry is in shambles. You know, you can look at the number of sales and what all's happening. You can blame the government shutdown if you want, but people are like, screw it. There's like no enforcement. Like, why do I want to go take this test again? Like, I've took the test once and I've never been checked. Who cares? I mean, that's not how I operate, and I don't operate anymore with drones. It's pointless to me.
You're doing well there. You're a fantastic ambassador for the industry there, Rob. Yeah.
What are we supposed to do with these guys? I'm done engaging with the public. You guys are lucky to have me tonight because I'm tired of trying to educate people or give them great ideas. Either my ideas get ripped off and people run with them. I engage at the highest levels of government. So those people are the people I'm trying to educate. I'm not going to engage in any more trolling. I've put several companies out of business easily. There's more to be maybe put out of business right now. I could just go and kick them and they'd fall down. But I don't really have that time, and it doesn't do anything for me. I don't earn money by that. You know, if you calculated up some of the stuff maybe me and Kevin did, maybe some of these lobbyists and people on the Hill, maybe I've put $400 million in businesses out. And it didn't do anything for me. It pissed off a lot of people, changed a lot of things, but I'm done with that. So I don't engage the public anymore. I make one statement and they can do with it what they want.
Well, that's a very them and us then. Well, obviously we must be honoured to have you on board, but that's a bit them and us, isn't it? So where's the surely your experience will be able to tell, I suppose, the public that want to listen. I guess that's probably the crucial thing. The do's and don'ts, or you know, some things that might move it on quicker.
Well, I thought you know, when I took my trip to China, I was there for some diplomacy as well. And I really think people ought to watch those folks. And I warned all the Chinese, which they didn't even understand that. And I'm telling you guys too, and I know Bruce will say that that's rubbish, but, you know, airworthiness is coming for commercial operators because these things are aircraft. And so every last nut and bolt is going to go down the way of, you know, manned aviation. So you're typical phantom cost for a certified piece of equipment is going to go from $1,000 US to $4,000. You'll have to have a trained technician do all your maintenance and inspections. You'll have to pay for all that, you know, DOT approved equipment. I'm warning people, and I've been telling them for 2 years now. But I think in just less than 3 years, all that's going to be a requirement for commercial folks. And so I told DJI, I called him out and told him, you guys better come online, because if you think drone sales are bad now, you just wait till the airworthiness comes, and that'll pretty much put all mom and pop drone builders out of business. And it's really going to put a dent in China's drone economy if they don't understand the regulations. And when I was over there speaking with them, none of these people understood any of this stuff. I saw several different pieces of equipment with easily repairs that I could have told them, but my government said, don't give them any improvements, no IP stuff. And some of the stuff I saw was just nuts. So there's a lot of work to be done. And if we don't work with those people, I think later on it's going to be bad on a global scene. And, people should understand that regulations, whether bad or good, are built on blood. Like, we don't make a regulation and it's very reactionary until people die. And another great thought Patrick and I had was that, the FAA probably had thought there'd be a death from a drone by now, and then they could impose all this crap, and there never has been a death. So they're like, damn, what do we do now?
That's pretty cynical.
It's interesting you talk about. Sorry, yeah, it's interesting you talk about airworthiness, Rob, because I was in a meeting just before Christmas. There was a drone industry action group meeting, and Rob Markwell from the Civil Aviation Authority, he was one of the guys who'd basically sign off a lot of the operational safety cases in the UK. He sort of talked about the three sort of classes of operations. One being operations which are restricted by limits. So that's your standard permission. So you've got your 50-meter rule. Keep people well away from things and it can remain safe. You've then got the second period, which is like looking at performance-based safety. So looking, proving that you can run an operation through experience and through the way that you're conducting that operation. But then he talked about that sort of third category where we're sort of moving into the beyond visual line of sight flying. And he said that there is going to be, there's certainly going to be some requirement for airworthiness standards there. And I know there's all of these standards groups going on at the moment, but you've got the DO 178C standards, which are these have been out for donkey's years.
Yes.
And so there are, there's standards out there already, so we should be just adopting those. In my opinion, I don't think we necessarily need, there might need to be some adaptations to those in certain areas, but I think for the large majority, we can adopt some of those standards. Not the same sort of standards as a Boeing, for instance, but something which is between where we are now, which is nothing, and sort of a full-size aircraft. There needs to be some kind of airworthiness standards if we're going to take things to that next level. At the moment, if you're flying within visual line of sight, over a farmer's field, if the thing crashes, you might take out 50p's worth of crops, but you probably don't need it. But certainly, if Amazon want to start delivering to into my block of flats coming in through the window, then they're certainly going to need airworthiness standards to be able to do that.
Very much so. But hands up, has anyone seen them actually fly anything recently? I believe that's over. I mean, come on.
I was expecting something to come out just before Christmas, actually.
Exactly, and this is the second Christmas, I think, now, with no advert from them. I think it is. I think that's pretty much dead in the water. But they are building a UTM. Hooray!
I think Amazon has worked out that there's more money in actually delivering drones than delivering by drones.
Oh, very good.
Nice.
Very smooth. Very smooth. Dear me. Oh, Jeffrey Smith says they are flying. Okay, well, you need to tell us more then, Jeffrey. Tell us more. Tell us more. And Google have been made too quiet and theirs down, haven't they, down in Australia? Lots and lots and lots of complaints with that trial run in Canberra. A lot of people that were pro it are against it now and have stopped it. Once the novelty wore off, people stopped using it, and they're going to Norway next, aren't they? I think so. We'll have to see what they say on the harsh weather. Let's see. Justin Pringle says redundancy needs to be understood. It still isn't even understood within the COTS industry. And Jeffrey Smith is building. Says they're building their own sensors. Well, yes. Well, yes. They've got to stop using the Pixorks one day. It's right. Where should we go next? I
want to make a comment that says all these standards groups, don't waste your time, folks, because they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, right? And so we've got a standards group that conducted stuff for 20 years, and the FAA just said sorry. And then think about our 55-pound rule and where that came from. What's that standard based on? Nothing more than a manufacturer's drone stopped at 55 pounds. So if you got a lot of money, you can control that, and that's the people that's going to be controlling things. So you can go and work your pants off for years and then just get thrown right in a circular filing cabinet. So don't waste your time. These groups are shim sham flam scams. Don't do it.
But surely that's got to rattle down somewhere in the end, though. You can't say that forever. You can't go every year to, oh, that's another scam. One group's got to sell, as Snow does, surely.
Well, how's that Journey song? Don't stop believing. It's going to be money, folks. It's going to be someone like Boeing. It's going to be Honeywell. One of these guys is going to come out with something. It's not going to be Amazon. It's not going to be Google. None of these folks. They don't have a They don't have a leg in this race. It's just marketing for them. That's all they've got.
507.
Gary, you've now got a copyright strike because of Rob singing.
Well, I don't know. I don't think the Google algorithm's that good, even though he named that. 507 says, does DJI have the money to control the standards? Hi, Shannon Newman. I don't think DJI does. Or should the question be, do they care? That's really the question, isn't it? No.
Well, the main policy guy's done a lot of great work, huh?
No, there's going to be all sorts of strikes against this video, Bruce.
I find it funny. I gave my speech in about the American policy wizard himself, and they shut the San Francisco store down right afterwards. So I bet I could go and just blow him over in the wind right now, but whatever.
Well, yeah. One voice singing in the darkness. Yes, there you go, Boo. What was? Oh, I know. But he's gone. He's gone. I wanted to ask Nicola about his false reviews, but he's not there. Oh no, he's coming back. Yeah. That's Zoct HD, Nicola. We'll jump back onto the serious stuff again in a minute. But reviews for Flying Wings. Now, there's been a bit of a kerfuffle in the forums this week about that Zoct HD XL or whatever it's called.
Why? What for?
Because somebody was flying it very, very quickly and it fell apart. And then supposing
like the Facebook drone.
Wow. Well, that's another story. But you identified it was for cruising. But the real takeaway story is that a lot of the reviews of equipment out there are just made up because people receive stuff for free, and then they have to talk very, very nicely about the product.
Really? See, that part with they have to, that's something I never understood. Why would you have to if it's not any good?
Nicola, but the way it works is these people get sent a product, they say, it's fantastic. There's an affiliate link in the description of this video, buy there. And that's where they make their money from the commissions at Banggood Handout and things. So it's just self-serving.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I pretty much do the same thing, but whenever I've gotten, I point that finger, sorry, but that's how I make my living, and I'm not ashamed of it. And that's the fact. I have to say that. I mean, whether I want to or not. Otherwise, I'd have to go and look for something else to do, and this would just be a hobby. And right now, it's a sort of a job and a hobby. Anyway, that's not really the point here. How the hell? Well, anyway, how the hell do you get that plane to disintegrate? How fast are we talking about?
Well, didn't the ground get in the way?
Yes, that's how you do it. Yes, but the ground. Speed really doesn't matter in that case. But he hit the ground, or he just fell apart due to high speed, because you'd have to put quite the motor on that thing to make it go really quickly. I've been over 100 kilometers an hour with it, and it didn't even budge.
I think the problem is that, as you've said, it is a cruiser, it's not a racer, and people are treating it like a sports car. They want it to have the same flight envelope as a fully aerobatic wing, but it's not. It's one that's designed with a lot of pitch stability, primarily for FPV, I think, for long-range cruising, where you don't have to basically, and it has a relatively narrow speed range, but that's not a problem if you're flying long-range FPV. But the people, I think, who've complained are used to flying things that are fully aerobatic, and you can give them full throttle and they won't pitch up and cut the power, and they'll fly inverted. And it's just not that they're reviewing a sports car reviewing a Rolls Royce from the perspective of a sports car owner, and they have the wrong parameters for judgment. Although I have heard some complaints that the quality of the machine is not that good. One guy here said it was something about popcorn foam and were not very well constructed, so that may be an issue. I don't have one. No one sent me one to review, and I wasn't going to waste my money on one. So yeah.
Wouldn't know about that, but what I can tell you is that Zoch told me that actually some of the review units are different, like slightly lower quality in some regards compared to what end users would receive when they started shipping out the pre-orders. Now I've got one of the like pre-production run, whatever, I don't know, with the not up to spec foam, etc., etc. I never really did complain about the hellishly out of balance prop, because apparently the end user units got a perfectly balanced prop, so really there was no point in me mentioning that. But popcorn foam, seriously, unless that was some, you know, bad unit or something, or a bad batch, I don't really see that happening. The foam on this thing is pretty amazing, and that's not even at the quality at which end users would have received it anyway. And as far as falling apart, I've really no idea how you can achieve that. I mean, some people have even complained that the foam in the nose is too thin, breaks too easily, really 2 crashes and not a dent in the plane yet. Well, hopefully, knock on wood, that stays that way. But and the flight envelope, I think a lot of people are mistaking this one for the smaller dot, the first generation, and that thing was crazy. And that thing was able to do a lot of things that this one is just not able to do. And also, I think a lot of people come from flying wings, and they see this and they say, well, it's sort of a flying wing, just the wings are swept forward, so why the hell not? But flying wings, and especially if kept light, have a quite different flight envelope from this thing. I mean, the Fury Wing, for one, this thing was insane. Absolutely insane. It was fast, it was agile. Well, not the most agile thing I've flown, but still. And you keep telling people this is not a racer, and I think a lot of people also come from racing copters, and they do have a certain expectation of what this thing should be able to do, because it has the name, like the word extreme added to it. But really, you need to specify extreme. What is the extreme? It's not agility, that's for sure. At least not close to the ground. You can go and do loops around clouds or something, but close to the ground, definitely wouldn't risk it.
Well, that's exactly where he lost his one.
I think they should send me one, and I'll tell people what the real story is.
There we go. There we go. And
I really have no problems with my unit. Let's put it like, let's word it like this. The unit I received is good.
Well,
Doesn't
that's good.
fall
But
apart.
the real story was about, I suppose, was about false reviews, and I think it was quite a good story. There are plenty of them out there.
I think. Well, the thing is, there are people. Although I'm not quite sure why would you do a false review on this thing when it's a pretty darn good model, when I stand by this. I mean, I've never done a review where I've said something is good when it's actually bad just for the clicks. I don't care about the clicks if this is going to reflect badly on me, on my name, and on my channel, and I've been building this for years. And this is important right now. And I think there are people around, like especially newcomers to the field, that, oh yeah, sure, I'll do a review. And he doesn't care what it is and how it's performing. He just wants the clicks. And because he doesn't really have anything that's at stake, like his name, his reputation, doesn't really care. It doesn't matter. He's just going to go around the forums, spam a little bit, post under some other videos, stuff like that. He's gonna get a few clicks, he's gonna get a few dollars in, but you know, people are gonna sniff him out. Yeah.
There are some channels where I've never seen a bad review. Everything is great. Everything's fantastic, and I've reviewed a few products that have been praised heavily by other people who found major flaws in them. Well, you know, it's just the way the thing goes.
It depends. It depends. Point of view is also very important, because I've done reviews on certain things that I thought were absolutely outstanding. Like the Nano Talent, for one, I was very happy with this thing. Really, the shake on the roll axis wasn't really that big of an issue. And I really, it is an amazing plane. I mean, for that size and that weight, that thing can stay in the air anything between an hour and 2 hours, depending on the battery. Show me another plane that can do that at 500 grams at this size. I don't think there are a lot of alternatives out there, and I was exceptionally happy with the plane. But later on, somebody started mentioning, well, it rolls too much, so it's completely useless. Well, not really, because if you fly in windless conditions, it's just as good as any other plane. If you take it up higher, where where there's no turbulence really, and winds are laminar, it's as smooth as anything else I've flown. So it depends on the person doing the review, but you know, false advertising, not really. But there is the thing where I really don't want to waste my time reviewing crap. So I get offered a lot of things, and I do evaluate them before refusing or accept them. And I do refuse things that I just know are going to be a waste of time.
Yeah, I still review stuff that I know is crap, because people, a review saying this is crap is even more valuable than a review that says something else is good, because it means people won't waste their money on the crap.
Yeah,
I've
sure.
got a mixed view on that, though. I mean, in your case, it's that is fine, Bruce, because you're doing a legitimate evaluation there. But there's a thing that started in the last few years, and it is quite savvy, actually. What people have noticed is if you do a video of "don't buy this, it is so terrible," it gets a lot more views than if you say "buy this, it's brilliant." If you do it on like popular products, it happens now with a lot of camera gear. So I can remember like the GH5 Panasonic camera. It's an absolutely fantastic camera. You know, in the mirrorless range, it's a brilliant video product. And the GH5S, and there was a few reviewers on that specifically didn't know anything about it. It was quite clear in the reviews, but did the, you know, the headline, "Oh my God, don't buy this, it is so crap," and it was basically just to troll everyone, to get them to watch the video and get all those views off it, and it did work. So you do have that now going on that you've got to be wary of. So yeah, it makes it more difficult now than ever to even trust internet reviews. You've got to kind of pick the people that you can often tell whatever hobby you're in, whether it's the cameras or the drones. You can kind of tell who are the slightly trustworthier people or whose judgment you consider better and go off their reviews. And as ever, if you don't have those, it's down to, you know, get to a store where you can actually see these things, or a mate that you can actually trust for advice. But yeah, there's definitely a trend for that now.
I don't think we'll see much of that in the drone or the hobby market, because our community is so small that you can't make money out of views alone. I mean, I think Matt Ogborn was saying, you know, how pitiful the revenues from YouTube advertising are, and they're absolutely atrocious. If you build your business model on that, you can't. Well, I managed to survive solely because of my Patreon supporters. If it was just down to YouTube advertising, I would be out on the streets with my little tin mug, begging for money. But it is a case of, I don't think a quest for views is the holy grail anymore. It's a quest for commissions on sales of products generated by your review. And if you give a bad review, you're not going to sell a product. So I think that while in the camera market, where you're looking at an audience potentially of millions, when you're dealing with RC models and things, you're looking at an audience measured in tens of thousands on average. So I don't think that paradigm works anymore. I don't think people are going to go and just do a deliberately bad review to get views.
There is something a little more devious with that, and I think we have seen it with drones, which is where, yeah, if you're aligned to a certain manufacturer or retailer, you can actually benefit from effectively trolling the competition. So you know there could be kickbacks for effectively trolling and destroying another product. So you'll see guys that are known to be, "I'm a Canon guy," and obviously if there's any mention of a competing brand, it'll be a review and it'll be considered a crap camera, if you see what I mean.
Well, I don't know. These things are...
Sorry, Nikolai. We have the pros. We have the pros on these kinds of advertisement. Look at what the DJI did today on the release of that controller slash monitor. They had an embargo on everyone, and right at the same time, the internet was flooded with reviews and critics of their new monitor, and it was just in time. So they don't rely on that. They rely on the expansion and the number of reviews that everyone posted. Go, Nicola.
Okay, yeah, trolling other products. I think people are not that, well, the majority of people, especially in our hobby, most people are informed generally. And, you know, you've got 100 reviews that say this is great, and then one guy that, you know, shits all over it. I think, you know, it's not going to make much of a difference, but you are right about this sort of like reverse psychology thing that's going on, and it's just clickbait. And I don't know, I guess it helps in some cases, but it is annoying. But then it does work to an extent, so you are tempted to use. So it's you know, as a person that does that, it is all these things that you need to consider. But yeah, tough crowd.
Well, I think it's just hard to make money out of it all. Now, Louise mentioned that that new controller from DJI today. I was a bit taken aback with the price of the thing.
Why? Have you seen how much does an iPad costs?
Hang on a minute.
I'm trying that reverse psychology thing for you, Gary.
I've been told. Hang on a minute. Oh, bloody Kiwi. Yeah. No. Well, yes, I've seen how much an iPad costs, but that's a chunk of money, isn't it? $600 odd.
And what this reminded me was I've seen this movie back in a few years. Remember when the 3DR announced the Solo, and DJI just cut them straight with a new product?
Yes.
And price below.
Well, who is it in the movie that's being knocked out then this time?
I don't know. You've heard of it?
Are you referring to the Here link? Is that where you're trying to take this story?
No, perhaps.
Oh, maybe. Well.
Okay, guys, I have to go.
Okay, yes.
Baby needs to go to sleep. So good day, good evening, wherever you might be. We'll see you again soon.
Very good, mate. All right. Archangel is his channel, and yeah, like, subscribe, and hit that bell, as they say on his channel. Cheers, mate.
I don't say that.
No,
but
don't lie.
Don't mind if you do.
So do I. Cheers, mate. Take care. I must apologise to people in the comments. I don't quite know why Zoltan's comment just got pulled, and I had to approve it. You just said too many nits. So the YouTube comment system obviously finds the word nits very offensive or something like that. I don't know. So if you're putting comments in the chat and they're not appearing quickly, it's because I've not noticed that they need approval.
Let's not talk about UHD TV as LCDs then, because nits are a defining factor.
Yes, as Zoltan said, there's too many nits needed to comb my hair with the thing. Yeah, screen brightness is important, isn't it, with all of these things? And it seems to be the first thing that people complain about. I'm not quite sure what they're expecting at the end of the day. But I thought it was a very expensive looking bit of kit, and I also thought it didn't look like it was going to be a nice thing to hold in the hand either. But here's Adam again. Oh, are you driving, Adam? Or what are you doing?
Apologies, I'm in the truck right now, so I've got a limited connection here and there.
No worries, that's quite cool. Tall buildings going past. That's very, very cool. Adam, while we've got you here then for a few seconds in the truck, what's new in the world of Dropcopter and bees and pollination. It's winter. You can't be doing anything.
I missed the last part of what you said, but the first part is we're starting to test our new software, which is going to be really cool. Dev has currently got it to a situation where you're going to pull up a map, draw a box around what you want to fly, and that'll automatically chart the altitudes for you as well as the tree rows. So it'll be a very limited interface for the pilot to have to worry about waypoints. I mean, we're all aware of how ArduPilot currently looks with Mission Planner, so it'll be a lot cleaner than that, a lot easier to fly, and hopefully save a lot of time on the ground and a lot less log keeping, which will be nice.
And when does the bee season for you actually start?
So typically California has the first season for us, which is February. That can be around 2 to 3 weeks of time, but it can also be quite quick. Weather is a big factor in that. Then it moves from west to east across the United States. So we'd go up to Washington and then across to, if we were doing Michigan, it'd be Michigan, and then New York is the end of the season for us on North America.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you keep driving, and you just chip in if you want to, but I don't want to bother you too much. But I also saw you had an article out today, which I'll put in the comments afterwards. So well done on you. Some comments on business and things like that from yourselves. I'm a bit loath to ask Rob any more questions or thoughts from China, because so far it's just been all joy every time I've asked you anything. Rob, have you got any other takeaways from China before we take ourselves away? See what I did there?
Well, there's a lot of commonalities I realized in the world scene. We went off to this resort up in the hills. I nicknamed James Bond Island, and our group really liked that name because we were all there from different countries, and I got to see a real world view and see how people are all the same, which is really awesome. One thing that I'm still confused on is how the economy works in China, like who actually owns stuff and who doesn't. And anytime I'd ask questions about that, they would always laugh, and I never got an answer. So I still don't understand how you own or export any wealth that you gain in that country, and was advised to set up companies in other countries and sell the products from other places. Went to a very high-end LiDAR factory. They've been making lasers since 2000. And I forget what the measurement is, but it's they're using the most anyone's got's 120, and they have 200 in this system. They showed me it costs like $100,000 for this thing, and that's Chinese prices. So that might be like on the world scene, $500,000 LiDAR sensor. And when they're running it down the street, I mean, it was just ridiculous. All the points and places it picked up, I've never seen anything like it. So that was kind of innovative. Also got to see some ground robots with the LiDAR packages, real simple units interacting, just like you might see some of these small swarm bots running around in a little area. And that was quite impressive. I wasn't expecting to see anything that was, impressive. And then, just the people, they were super friendly and no crime here in DC, yeah, you're going to get messed with hardcore, and over there, nothing like that. I mean, you could go out any time of night, women any time of night, just like no fear. And then the other thing is they got their cameras just hanging on the street corners, and people are like, Big Brother and whatnot. Well, they may have 12 to 15 cameras out there, but here in the U.S., we've probably got 25, and they're all hidden. So I don't know what system's really better at this point. I'm just trying to educate people that we need to work as a team around the globe, and some of the folks here in the U.S. need to quit being bitter, and that I feel that there's a responsibility to the common person here in America to, we have a responsibility to the world, because it seems that a lot of people look up to us to do the right thing, and right now there's a lot of people in bitter fights, and we're not doing the right thing, and we call it either a conspiracy, or that folks are like colluding, or that it's bad business or corruption in other places, and here we call it doing business and stabbing people in the back, and that's just not right. And that's how all these flim-flam armchair experts become the leaders in this thing, because it's just marketing fluff and trash. And so that's my final thoughts on things, and you know, I hope to make an impact on the general public here in America. And, you know, I appreciate all the different ideas I hear from everyone else, but in a weird way, shit trickles out of the U.S. and I don't understand if that's a right thing or not, but that's how it is.
Oh, that's big picture thinking every time. It's yeah. Yeah, the armchair experts have, well, I'm not. I need to get an armchair. Yeah, they seem to be reaching peak drone expert at the moment, or peak nonsense. I hope we're reaching peak nonsense, because if it gets worse than this, then we are in trouble. In times of worry, when Mother Mary calls to me, here's another copyright strike coming now. But we need to, you know, we need to be seeing from the same song sheet when there's such problems as Heathrow and Gatwick, and coming with a more unified and sensible voice, not immediately trying to sell whatever system we happen to purvey to solve the problem. And it's been a big problem over Christmas, I think.
I will tell you, I toured the finest crafters of counter drone equipment I've ever seen in my life. And the coalition, I'll go ahead and tell you now, we're going to start selling equipment. And I invite people to come down and try to attack this equipment, because I've reviewed over 100 pieces of equipment myself. All this stuff these fools are selling are copies of trash.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. There's very few big tests of it, is there? Of all these systems, there's a few, but you know, there should be a test site set up where it's constantly under attack from various.
Reminds me of that old. There's a stone that keeps tigers away, and it's been in some little town for centuries. And it works because there's never been a tiger around there. Of course, there's no tigers in the country, but this stone must work because we've never seen a tiger. And I think some of this anti-drone stuff is going to be in the same category.
Well, easily, because when I enter the market, I'm going to be selling stuff at half price, and I hope to put out at least 10 companies out of business in the first 6 months for starters, because I'm not a greedy guy and I know what works. And none of these people test this stuff in real world environments. I shot a drone out of the sky over in China. We didn't need permission for that. I saw their radar system was ridiculous, out to 7 kilometers, and that's radius. So yeah, I've seen the best in the world now, and the rest of this stuff is copies of trash. Here's another thing they'll do. They'll go over and buy this like real legit stuff from a couple of different companies I'm not going to name that's there. Then they bring it home and then reverse engineer it, and then buy some like garbage Chinese boards when these things were like handcrafted in America and assembled over in China. And then they try to steal their algorithms and stuff. And these people don't have the first clue about putting these things together. So at the end of the day, they got a real crappy product. And that's not how any of our stuff's going to work. No. But no, they don't do any testing in real world environments. So you're up next to a building. You're not going to see around the other side of that building. You know, let's get real, folks. Like, yeah, the smoke and mirrors needs to end. These armchair counterterrorism people, you know, I'm going to put them out of business.
Yeah, but as a very wise man once said, forget the quality, feel the width.
Exactly. Yes. My this runway short, but look how wide it is.
You have to get an Israeli marketing director.
Exactly.
That's what you need.
Yes, you do. Well, fair play to them. They won. If there was a battle at Gatwick, they won that battle. They definitely won that battle. So fair play to them, I suppose, in some ways. Justin Pringle saying in the comments, not many drone concepts at CS 2019, which is true. But have we all seen the video of the Tesla knocking over the Russian robot trundling down the side of the road? That happened at CES. The two autonomous systems didn't get out of the way of each other, which is there's the industry in a nutshell, isn't it? Well,
this is why you won't see any innovation, because you know, Chris Anderson first looted the community of do-gooders. People maybe I'm working 20 hours a day on trying to help, you know, push the industry. Second is all these people with products just rip them off from other people. They don't have the first inkling of innovation or aerospace or aviation or any of that stuff. And then thirdly, all the monster DoD companies and aviation people are all secretly working on drones, and they got teams of people been doing this for decades. So they're not going to let anything out because all these goofball armchair experts will steal it from them. So you guys watch out. In the next 5 years, we're going to have some real amazing stuff. But guess what? It's going to be patented. It's going to be from the big people, and all the mom and pop little screw handler shops, they will sadly go away. Some of them need to go away.
I don't know. Do we think? Do we think that's really the? Oh, look, he's now out the car. He's gone and got the shopping, and he's back indoors. Is that really the case? I don't. That's not my vision of the future.
It's a maturing industry. That's what happened to the car industry.
It's what is happening right now. Look at all the innovation. From where is the innovation coming from? It's all closed source and patented until the wazoo. So it's already happening. It's a trend. It's clearly a trend.
But
I'm a scientist. Wrong or right, I tell the truth. And so I don't care if something's wrong or right. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, and that's what's going to happen.
You're absolutely right, Rob. Because where is the innovation? Okay, some kid in the shared programming around C++ and an Arduino or a Pixoc or something, or a multi-million-dollar with 5,000 guys and a concrete definitive plan, punching code all day. It's just a matter of being a subject of the big numbers. We can keep. Go ahead.
When I got off the elevator at the chairman's office there in Shenzhen, I was greeted by Honeywell.
The clues in the name. The clues in the name.
Those folks, I was told, they don't know what's going on really, and they were Chinese people. It wasn't like Americans were there or anything like that, but it must be going on everywhere in basements. And you're right. 5,000 people has been doing this for years. And then my final thoughts on flying cars. I've got a lot of understanding of how vehicles are brought to market. A good case example is Honda Jet. Honda Jet took them 12 years. There's a thing in America called a DAR, and that's a designated aviation researcher. There's a list of these people. They work with 1 foot in the FAA's office and 1 foot at the company. They get paid by the company. Their signature is worth millions and billions of dollars. They keep track of all these people. A company I was working at lost one of their DARs and also 20 engineers to Honda Jet. Now, Honda, they got unlimited funding. They know how to bring vehicles to market. It still took them 12 years. Like, you think an app company is going to bring to market a flying car? You're crazy. You think anybody except for one of these big companies that does aerospace stuff is going to bring a flying car to market? You're crazy too.
But that's
Ken Moller's nearly there.
Who's nearly there? Oh,
Ken
Muller, of course. Yes, of course. But Bella there now, they've jumped in. Bell knows what's what. They've jumped in with their flying car for Uber. Uber seems to have grown up and got Bell on team. That'll be all right, won't it? They'll know all about that.
That's my grandfather's friend, Hans Weichel, the father of the Huey, father of the Jet Ranger series, and father of the Cobra gunship. So they know about helicopters. My grandmother, she was one of the first 13 helicopter pilots rated in the world. She flew Bell experimentals. Like, I still think we ought to look back at some of those aluminum dinosaurs, the original VTOL stuff, and try working one of those. The certificates and regulations are already set up for them. We've got much more efficient engines, and we have computer-guided control systems. Like, why don't we go put one of those in the air? Instead of these plastic toy things. Like, they're not ever going to pass regulations for plastic props, man. I'm sorry.
Well, it does seem a little bit like reinventing the wheel, doesn't it? A lot of it. But I'm glad to see if Louis knows. Louis bothered me about it before. I did a little drone delivery experiment a while ago, and I was using Twin Otters, and I see that they are talking about electrifying a Twin Otter now, a 19-seater aircraft for short haul transport of stuff. So I was ahead of the game there, Louis. So
I'll short, Gary, from your house to the end of the street.
Well, almost.
Is that short enough?
No, they're doing it with Loganair, and Loganair have got those routes in the islands in Scotland that are like 1.5 miles or 3 miles straight across from beach to beach. But it's still there.
So it's a slingshot. It's a slingshot. They're developing new rubber bands for the slingshots.
They've got to wait till the tide's quite a long way out, and then they pull the aeroplane an awful long way back before they let go. But no, it's what I was trying to go with that is as Rob said with the helicopters. You know, you've got older stuff that could be life could be brought back into it. A couple of things modified. There's no need to make it look all Jetsons. I'm sure that's how it'll all really arrive.
Back to the point that Rob.
Electric is the future, though, and that's something I'll comment on too. Over in China, they got these electric buses, and it was ridiculous, man. They're silent; you can only hear the wind going off. Like that city Shenzhen 40 years ago was only 30,000 people. Now it's like 140 million, and they got one of the most like forward-thinking, environmentally friendly cities that I've ever seen, and that's like totally contrary to like what they tell us in the media here in the U.S. You know. That there are these big pollutant people. Yeah, like in the north, they burn all this coal and it's crazy pollution, but they're like really being forward thinking on trying to prevent all that stuff. I mean, in the United States in the 70s, in Pittsburgh, I mean, you could scrape the black soot like right off of stuff, you know. So it'd give them a little time and they're going to quickly outpace us, you know.
I think they kind of already are outpacing everybody, aren't they? Really, it's I think they're already there. Anyway, look, we've gone 18 minutes over already, so I'm going to throw it to the floor as I normally do. Throw it to the floor, throw it down. Oh, there goes my car alarm. Oh.
Is it a self-driving car?
Anyway, just chat amongst yourselves a second. I may be back. If not, can you call the authorities?
Okay, good.
Come on. He's complaining because he forgot the alarm on a self-driving car. But Rob, you're absolutely right, because the way the things are going, even today, if you are try to be a commercial operator in Europe and you have to do a SORA assessment, it's very expensive, and there are a few experts on doing SORA assessments and filling up all the right boxes on the right places and submitting that. Commercial operators, drones that operate commercially are going to get swamped with paperwork and regulations.
Yeah, I don't mean to be a naysayer or anything like that, but you know, going back to this innovation thing, the real innovators are always called crazies and stuff, you know. So even though if I'm telling you that it can't happen, it still can, because people still need to innovate. And so, you know, don't lose faith, but you might think that as an innovator, you join up with one of these larger groups, because that's where you actually may see your dreams come true easier. The other people that do it, it's like divine intervention or something. It's like everything came together like perfectly. And the odds of that happening are like way less than 1%. So we have a lot of innovation, and, you know, I've started to dole out my IP because I just can't keep it on my brain sitting on the shelf. Like, I am spread too thin. I've got too much going on. So it's like, give them a couple things here and there, but I wouldn't do it in a public forum. You might try to get paid or at least barter with some people on some things. So, you know, the innovation can still take place, but eventually it'll trickle back up into these larger companies. And it's sort of like designed that way in some aspects.
Yep.
Yeah, no, very much. I went armed. Look, it was all right. I went with Charles Brush this, so it was all right in the end. Where were we at? We're just saying any more for any more, really. So is there any more for any more? I see Ian's unmuted.
No, I was just going to ask if you'd shot the thief that was attempting to take your car.
I swept them away.
A brush with danger. Ooh.
A brush with danger, exactly. Yeah, I know. For some reason, my car alarm goes off randomly, but yeah, the dog's here. The big brave collie dog. They'll save the day, I'm sure. Anyway, with that, I suppose was there any more for any more? Going once, going twice, and then we'll go to the pub. Dear viewer, thank you very much. I hope you've all safe and wonderful new year that you've had. Thanks very much for joining us. Don't forget 2100 GMT next week, when I'm sure there'll probably be another airfield incident we've got a flipping report on. Which is, I've tried to
maybe in the US this time.
Maybe, who knows? maybe whoever's worked out how to attack air traffic navigation services around the world will roll this attack out all over the place. We shall see.
Gary, I guess just before we go, I might as well just do a quick update from what the Met Police have just put out. But yeah, they're basically trying to again make a whole drama out of it, saying it's got to have been a drone because a police officer's seen it. And as we've said already, police officers aren't trained to spot drones. So yeah, it's doing the whole Gatwick.
There's probably a carefully trained German Shepherd drone dog that saw it.
Oh, well, if it was that well trained, it would have barked. They obviously haven't got the dogs in place. Did we all see that? The flipping get dogs to bark at them. Oh. Anyway.
Well, apparently it was a Tesco's drone because it had Tesco's written on the side of it, and it had two handles as well.
Did it? Well, yeah. That's good because you need those when you put them in the car, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Was it biodegradable, do you think?
It was, yeah, and it was made out of very thin composite sort of plastics.
The very latest
drone delivery again.
A drone delivery every time he gets a fence lines. You devil! All right, come on, enough of this. Cheers, everyone. Take care. Have a lovely week. See you 2100 GMT next week. Bye bye. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.